We begin today the Gemara on Daf Ayin Vov Amud Aleph, 5 lines down from the top of the Yamud, where it says I Mahu. So this Gemara is a continuation from the Gemara before. The Mishnah in the beginning of the Perek brings the list of the cases of Nisrafim, those that are Chayiv Sreifa, and the Gemara mentioned before, based on a Braisa, that there are the cases of a person's own daughters or granddaughter, and over there, the pasuk does not clearly say that there's a punishment of sreifa, and the Gemara says this is what's called bitoi ma'anusasai. Even if it's not his wife, it's a daughter or a granddaughter from someone that he had a relation with. Then there's the cases of basishtoi, the daughters of his wife or the granddaughters of his wife. There, the Torah uses the term zima, and from that term zima, we compare it to the term zima that it says by the Bas Kayin that the sreifa. Now before, the Gemara said that there's an additional Gzeira Shava. Besides the Gzeira Shava of Zima Zima, there's the Gzeira Shava of Heina Heina. Where's the Gzeira Shava of Heina Heina? By a person's own grandchildren, it says the term Vascha Heina. And by his wife's children, grandchildren, it uses the term that Shara Heina. So we learn out Heina Heina that the punishment of Sreifa that applies by the Bas Ishtoi also applies by his own daughter, granddaughter, and so on. The expression the Gemara brought before from the Braisa is that we learn out Scharim from the Kevis. That's what the expression was. Which means that we learn out his grandchildren, we learn out from hers, from his wife's grandchildren. Okay, so now, based on this, the Gemara will ask, if this Gzeira Shava is true, maybe we could compare also the other way around. From the Isurim of Arayas that apply to his relatives of his, that should also apply to the relatives of his wife, that should be also to him similar to the way it is by him. If based on this Gzeira Shava. Okay, let's see. So the Gemara asks, I Mahu, if by him, by this man himself, Kalasa Yasura, his daughter-in-law is also to him, as the pasuk clearly says, and it's actually the einish for a person's daughter-in-law, if he has a relation with his daughter-in-law, is skila. So afhi kalas asura, I should learn how to compare with this same Gzeira Shava Heina to say that if it's his daughter's daughter-in-law, he should also be asa to her. And now this is what the Gemara refers to in Yuvamis. This is referred to as Eishes Chergai, because this is your wife's son, it's your stepson, and it's his wife, your wife's daughter-in-law, just like your own daughter-in-law, your aser, and the skila. So we should compare and say that with this same Gzeira Shava Heina, that your wife's daughter-in-law should also be asa to you. So why is this not the case? The Gemara in Yuvamis clearly says that a wife's daughter-in-law, Eishes Cherga, is only asa midrabanan. So Amar Abaya answers the reason is because Amakra, the pasuk says when it speaks about the Isser of one's daughter-in-law, Eishes binchahi, this is your son's daughter. Those words are extra. If you look there in the pasuk, it says Ervas kalascha loisa gala. And then it says again, Eishes bin chahi. So why is it saying again? Mishum Eishes bin cha atam chayvai. If it's the wife of your son, you'll be chayiv. V'atam chayvai mishum Eishes bina. But if it's your wife's son's the wife, your Eishes chergai, for that you're not going to be chayiv. So that's the pasuk. It's a miyut that you can't include this in the Gzeira Shava of Heina. Okay. Now the Gemara brings what the Rava says, and this is similar to what the Gemara said before, that Rava makes a calculation here that there could be different options of how to learn out this limud in this Gzeira Shava, and it's not, however you're going to try to learn it out, this Gzeira Shava is not going to work out regarding this case, regarding a person's wife's daughter-in-law. Rava says, whether you want to follow the opinion regarding such kind of limudim, a Gzeira Shava, that says, Dain mina u mina. This opinion means that you learn out the primary halacha you're trying to learn out, but then you also have to learn again, umina, all the details, the particulars, you also have to learn out from that source. That's one opinion. Another opinion says, no, you learn out the main halacha from that source, but then, the details of it, you apply back to the place where you're learning it out to. Okay, now the relevance regarding what we're talking about over here is, there's the main halacha, which is to say that just like with a person's own daughter-in-law, you chayiv misa, so too with her wife's daughter-in-law, one should also be chayiv misa. That's the main halacha. Now the question though is the particular kind of misa. Is it skila? Is it sreifa? Do I learn out the particular misa to compare to the source as well? Mina umina? or when it comes to the particular misa, I apply it to the place where you're learning it out to, and I look at what kind of misa do we find over here in this place, and that's the kind of misa I apply. So according to both of these opinions, lo yasya. You can't learn out this Gzeira Shavat to say that a person's wife's daughter-in-law should be also like his own daughter-in-law. So the Gemara explains, the opinion that says that you learn out the main halacha and then you learn out the particulars as well. So then you would have to say as follows: Mahu kalasi asura, just like a person's own daughter-in-law is asur, afinami kalasa asura, so too his wife's daughter-in-law is asur. And then you would add and say, umina, you learn out also the particular kind of misa, mahu beskila, just like he himself, what's the punishment if he has a relation with his own daughter-in-law? It's skila, as I mentioned before, afinami beskila. So too, with his wife's daughter-in-law, it's going to be skila. That's what the limud would be. So now the Gemara explains, this limud is not going to work. And here the Gemara begins with, based on what we learned before in the Masechta, that there's a machlokes between the Rabbanan and Rab Shimon, between skila and sreifa, what's more severe, skila or sreifa? And the Rabbanan say skila is more severe. Says the Gemara, Laman dama skila chamura, the opinion that says that skila is more severe. So that I'll tell you can't necessarily learn out this Gzeira Shava. Ikle mifrach. I can refute this Gzeira Shava. I mentioned already, the Gemara goes through the same concept before on Daf Ayin Hey, and the Rishonim say that usually by Gzeira Shava there's no pircha. But over here, because the words of this Gzeira Shava are not extra, so you could only learn it if there's no pircha. So what's the pircha? Ma'alohu, the reason why, I could tell you why the Torah is machmer for a person not to have a relation with his daughter-in-law, sheken imam beskila, because we see that regarding his relatives, if he has a relation with his mother, it's a very severe misa. It's skila, the highest, most severe misa. Taima bihi, however, regarding a person having a relation to his wife's mother, his mother-in-law that is, shima b'sreifa. Over there, it's only sreifa, it's a level down, it's not as severe. So therefore, I can't necessarily compare your daughter-in-law, a person's own daughter-in-law, to his wife's daughter-in-law, because by a wife, the relation to a wife, I see the Torah was not as stringent. For Oid, another question here is, how are you learning out? You're saying that from your own daughter-in-law, you learn out to the wife's daughter-in-law that what should be the punishment? Skila. Says the Gemara, how could you say this? Bito, that is, b'sreifa. If one has a relation with his wife's daughter, then the punishment would be sreifa. As the Gemara said already before, you learn out zima from a basish kayin, that when one has a relation with his wife's daughter, the punishment is sreifa. And the kalasa b'skila. And now you would be saying that if it's his wife's daughter-in-law, then it would be skila. That's very strange. Why would I say that a daughter-in-law, which is a less of a relation than a daughter, would be a more severe punishment? So how could you say such a limud? But the Gemara says that's not a question, because we already see this b'nigeya to the person's own daughter and daughter-in-law, as interesting as it is, but this is the fact. You see the Torah was more machmer b'nigeya to a daughter-in-law more than a daughter. Hu batzma yechiach, by the person himself. This can prove that you can say such a thing. The bitay b'sreifa, when one has a relation with his own daughter, and we're talking about a daughter from his wife, not a wife, from an anusa, so then b'sreifa, there it's only sreifa. Also, this was the Gzeira Shava of heina. And the kalasai b'skila, but regarding his daughter-in-law, it's skila. So we see that there is such a thing, that by a daughter-in-law, it's more severe than a daughter. So that's not a question. If you would say the same by his wife's daughter, would be skila, or rather sreifa that is, and by a wife's daughter-in-law, it would be even more severe, it would be skila. So Ella the Gemara says, there's another question here. Because I can tell you, how do you know, if the point over here is doi mina umina, which means that what we're learning out, we must compare it to the source completely, even the particulars as well. So then maybe you should compare it to the source and say as follows, in a different hyphen. It'll come out different than what we said before. And that is mahu, just like when it comes to a person's relatives. The misa that there is for him having a relation with his mother or with his daughter-in-law is the same misa. What's that misa? Skila. Afhi, I should say the same thing regarding his wife's relatives that he's also to have a relation with. You shouldn't make a distinction between the mother and the daughter. If regarding the mother, the punishment is sreifa, regarding the daughter-in-law, the punishment should be sreifa as well. Maybe this is the doin mina, that we're comparing it even with the particulars to say that it should be sreifa. So what's the Gemara asking here? What the Gemara is saying is, if you're going to want to learn out this Gzeira Shava, mina, and to try to compare it with the particulars, you can't. It's impossible. On one hand, you have to say that it should be skila, because your daughter-in-law is skila, so then the wife's daughter-in-law should also be skila. That's one way to say that it's mina, to fully compare. On the other hand, though, there's another perspective to this. In order to compare it completely, you would have to say that the mother and the mother-in-law, or the mother and the daughter-in-law, that is, should have the same misa. So just like by him, it's skila, by her, it should both be sreifa. So that comes out the opposite, that the daughter-in-law is sreifa. So what the Gemara is pointing out is this is a gzeira shaveh where it's not clear how to apply this gzeira shaveh. It can go both ways. If you can't learn the gzeira shaveh mino, it's not going to work out mino either way. So you can't make this gzeira shaveh. The Gemara says this is according to the opinion that says that skila is more severe. Well, the opinion that says that sreifa is the more severe punishment. So the previous question we asked is not a question regarding the fact that we see by him there's a chumre of by the mother that yechayev skila, that doesn't apply. But this last question we asked here, this second question, this is a question even according to this opinion that there's no you can't learn not mino. It's not clear how you learn this out. So therefore, there's no gzeira shaveh. Gemara goes on to say, according to the other opinion, according to the opinion that says that you learn the main halacha from a source, but then you apply it back, the particular kind of misa, you apply back to the way it is in this place. So then the limit here of this gzeira shaveh would be as follows. Mahu kalas yasura, just like a person his own daughter-in-law is aser, afhi kalas asura, so to his wife's daughter-in-law is aser. And then I would say, which misa is that though? Vaiki basra, the misa I would apply according to what you find by a person's wife's relatives, the relatives through the wife, that is. And that is, hasam hudu beskila, only regarding his own daughter-in-law, because by a man, you see that if he has a relation with his mother, it's skila. So I say by his daughter-in-law, that's why it's also skila. Aval hacha b'sreife, but over here, when it comes to his wife's daughter-in-law, it should be sreife. Kida ashkecham be'ima, like I see regarding a person that has a relation with his wife's mother, with his mother-in-law, that is. So that's the oiki basra. The limud would be that you should be chayiv sreifa. That's the limud. Okay, so now the Gemara says that you can't make this limud. First, the Gemara asks the same question it asked before. If we're following the opinion that skila is a more severe mise, there's a refutation to this gzeira shaveh. Ma'aluhu, the fact that I find that by him, the Torah says his daughter-in-law is aser, sheken imay b'skila, because I see the Torah was machmer, that with her mother he's chayiv skila, the most severe of all the mises. Toima bihi, however, when it comes to a relation with his wife's mother, shima b'sreifa. If he has a relation with his mother-in-law, it's only sreifa. So maybe here the Torah is not so machmer, and therefore with his wife's daughter-in-law, it wouldn't be aser. But another point. Maybe when I learn out, so before we said that we learn out that the daughter-in-law should be chayiv sreifa, because oiki basra, by the daughter-in-law of the wife, that is, you should be chayiv sreifa, similar to the relation with the wife's mother. But the Gemara says maybe the limud is different. Maybe there's another point that you have to learn with this gzeira shaveh. So again, the point the Gemara is going to make here is it's a kind of gzeira shaveh where you can't determine it. There's no way to figure out what you're going to learn out. So you can't make the gzeira shaveh, because maybe we could say the gzeira shaveh is different. And I'll say like this: Mahu. The limud would be just like when it comes to the man with regarding his relatives. We see that the Torah says there's a distinction between the misa by if he has a relation with his daughter, or the misa if he has a relation with his daughter-in-law. Right? By his daughter, the misa is sreifa. By his daughter-in-law, the misa is skila. So maybe the limud, if I'm learning out heina to compare it to the wife's daughter-in-law, to afi, I should say also regarding his wife. Maybe I should have to make a similar distinction between the daughter of his wife and the daughter-in-law of his wife. By the daughter of his wife, it should be sreifa, and by the daughter-in-law, it should be skila. So then it would come out that the whole the gzeira shaveh is coming to teach me maybe this point, that it should be dafke skila. So how do you know what the gzeira shaveh is going to teach you? Before we said the gzeira shaveh is going to teach you oiki ba'asra, which means that you conclude that you chayiv sreifa for your wife's daughter-in-law. But maybe the point of the gzeira shaveh is this detail. Rashi here explains this. The Gemara here is saying this detail. This is not because we hold doimina umina. No. We hold doimina va'oiki ba'asra. But maybe nevertheless, maybe it's this detail that the whole gzeira shaveh is about. That just like by a person's own daughter and daughter-in-law, there's a different misa by the daughter and the daughter-in-law. Maybe also b'negei to his wife's daughter and daughter-in-law, there's a different misa between the daughter and the daughter-in-law. It would come out that regarding the daughter-in-law, if you want to learn out the wife's daughter-in-law, it's not clear how you learn the gzeira shaveh. It could either be sreifa or it could be skila. So when you have such a kind of gzeira shaveh where you cannot narrowed down what the limit is. You can't make this limit. It doesn't have. There's no clarity. You can't teach anything. Now the Gemara concludes, even according to the opinion that says that Sreifa is the more severe of the Mises. So even if the previous question is not a Perche, Mahai Kushya Leini Dainin. This last question still remains a question, and therefore Rabbi says, you make the calculation, all these options, you see that you cannot learn out from one's own daughter-in-law to compare to say that by his wife's daughter-in-law that it should be Aser. That's the conclusion of this Inyan. That's why this limud doesn't work. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to what was mentioned before, and that is Bitay Manusasai, a person's daughter from a woman that he was Ma'anis and he had a daughter. So Minayin says the Gemara Bitay Manusasa Minayin. How do I know Bechlal that there's a einish of Sreifa? Or the Gemara is soon going to say actually we need to also have a source for the Azhara as well for a daughter of his Anusa. Why is the Gemara asking this question? So Rashi says if you look into the pasuk, when it comes to a person's own granddaughter or that comes from his Anusa, it never mentions the daughter in the pasuk. The pasuk there says Ervas Bas Binchoy Bas Bitchalei Segala. But it doesn't mention the daughter. So where is there a source for the daughter that is a einish of Sreifa? So the Gemara brings a few opinions. Amar Abaye says Kavachaymer. It's a simple Kavachaymer. Al Bas Bitay Onosh. If the Torah says that he gets Sreifa for a granddaughter, Al Bitay Lekol Shekain. So for his daughter, for sure he should get this einish of Sreifa. The Gemara, V'chi Einshim Min Adin. Do you ever give a punishment based on a Kavachaymer? We have the rule that you don't. And says the Gemara, this is not a regular kind of kavachayme. Gili milsa ba'almahu. This is just revealing the fact of the daughter, which is really included in the granddaughter. So Rashi explains that in this case, it's not a kavachayme of another case. Why is the granddaughter also? The granddaughter is also because it's a daughter of the daughter. So the daughter is obviously included in that. So the kavachayme is just making the point that when the Torah writes the granddaughter, the daughter is part of that. The case of Ein Einshim Min Adin, Rashi says, is in different kinds of cases by Arayis. Rashi brings the example when you have a sister that only shares the same father, a sister that shares only the same mother, and then you learn out of Kavachayim that a sister that shares both the father and the mother should be also. That's the kind of Kavachayim that you say Ein Einshim Min Adin. But a granddaughter from a daughter, the granddaughter comes from the daughter. It's based on the Isser of the daughter. So that's not Einshim Min Adin. Another source, Rava says, Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Asya Heina Heina. We learn out the same Gzereshava mentioned before of Heina, which is to compare a person's own daughter, granddaughters. We compare for the einish of Sreifa, it's learned out from a person's wife's children, that if he has a relation with his daughter, from his wife, that's from where we learn it out. Now, by a person's wife's children, over there the pasuk actually does mention clearly the daughter as well. Over there the pasuk says Ervas Isha Ubita, then it says also Bas Bana, Bas Bita, but there it mentions a daughter clearly. So we learn out from the wife's children that it applies also over here to a person's own grandchildren from an Anusa, that it includes also the daughter. And then Asya Zima. Once we have the Gzereshava of Heina to compare these two, then we also have the Gzereshava of Zima that compares it back to Bas Kayin, where the einish is Sreifa. Another pshat, the Gemara says, a third pshat, Tani Avur de Rabavin. The father of Rabavin taught, because we don't have a source for this, that a person's own daughter from an Anusa is Chayiv Sreifa. Therefore, we have an extra pasuk regarding the case of the Bas Kayin. Hutzrech HaKasav Loimo Vasish Kayin. What's the limit from this pasuk? So the limit is, it doesn't say Ubas Kayin, it says Ubas Ish Kayin. And because it says that word Ish, so we could read it Ubas Ish, that we're talking about the daughter of a man. Not Kayin, but the daughter of a man. That's what we're looking for over here. A source that a person is Chayiv Sreifa if he has a relation with his daughter. Imas. Okay, so that's the limit because of the words Basish. But the Gemara asks on this, Ima Bas Kayin, he Bisreifa. But if so, if you're learning it from there, I should say, by the Bas Kayin, only she's Chayiv Sreifa. Ve'im Boyal lo Bisreifa. But the Boyal is not Chayiv Sreifa. Av Bitei Manasasai. If so, when a person has a relation with his daughter from an Anusa, he Bisreifa, for her, it should be Sreifa, but Ve'im Boyal lo Bisreifa. The father should not be Chayiv in Sreifa, just like it is in that case of the Basish Kayin. So the Gemara says, no, we don't. We're not going to say this. Omar Abaye, the Gemara gives two pshatim. Abaye says, Omakra. There the pasuk says that the reason why she, only the girl, the Bas Kayin is chayiv sreifa, because it's avia hi mechalelas, because she desecrated her father by her actions, and therefore we say misha mechalelas is avia. That's only someone that's mechalal the father. Yatzasazu shavia mechalala. But over here, what we're learning out of this pasuk, the way you read this pasuk in this drasha is uvasish kayin kiseicha liznais as avia mechalelas. Kiseicha liznais means that she was mizana with her father. Esaviyah Michalelis means the father was mizana with her. So in this case, she's not being mechalal her father. The father is the one that's having the relation with her. So over here, he's not going to be excluded from this einish of Sreifa. Rava says another pshat why over here in this case the father is also going to be chayiv sreifa, and we can't compare to the bas kohen where the bas kohen is chayiv sreifa but not the boil. When it comes to the bas kohen, apikte midina the bas kohen, what we say is that the boil he's not included in this chumrah of the bas kohen. So therefore, what is he going to be chayiv? What are we talking about? By the Bas Kohen, we're talking about a Bas Kohen that's an Eishes Ish. That special chumrah of Sreifa does not apply to the Boil. So how do we treat him? Regarding him, we say, look at her as if she would be just a regular Eishes Ish, and therefore you chayiv chenek. But Hacha over here, regarding the father that's having a relation with his daughter, she's not married. She's just a girl, and he's having a relation with her. Adina de man moikim. If you're going to say that he's not included in this chiyuv of sreifa like his daughter, so what are you going to say? The father's included in what din? What other din are you going to put him into? Adina de pnuya. You're going to say that it's like a father that's having a relation with a single girl, and there's no moikim. That's what you're going to say, and therefore there's no punishment for that at all. There's no other category to put it into. By the boil with the bas kohen, you can say that we treat him like a regular eishes ish. She's the one that has the chumrah because she's the bas kohen. As far as he's concerned, he is a regular eishes ish. But by the father and the daughter, the father is included obviously in this isser of having a relation with the daughter, and therefore it's going to be sreifa just like the daughter. Okay, so those are the three opinions regarding the source of the punishment of sreifa regarding one that has a relation with a daughter. Now the Gemara says, "Ashara lebitima nisasa minayin." Where is there even a warning? Whenever there's an einish, there has to also be a warning in the Torah. So as mentioned in the pasuk where it says, "Ervas bas bitcha lo yisagale," it doesn't mention a daughter. So we have it as source for the punishment. But where is there even a warning for this? So the Gemara says, "Bishleim alabai v'rove according to Abai and Rove." So we have the warning because mehechid nafkalahu einish. You learn out the einish from where? From a person's wife's daughter and granddaughter. From the same Gzeira Shava of Heina. From there I learn out the Azhara as well. Over there it says the Azhara. Over there it says Lo Yisagala. So it's from the same Gzeira Shava. So according to what the father of Rab Avin learned out from the pasuk that it says by the Basish Kayin. So, but over there it just says the punishment of Sreifa. It doesn't mention any Azhara. So where is your source for the Azhara by a father that has a relation with his daughter? Rabbi Allah answers, the source is Amakra. There's a pasuk where it says, Al Techal as Bitchal as Naisa. Do not desecrate your daughter to be Mizana. And it's referring to a father with a daughter. This is the Azhara. Yaakov, how can you say that pasuk is the source? That pasuk is used for something else. It's coming to teach a warning for a father that's having a relation with his daughter. From that pasuk we learn out what it says in the Braisa. What is this pasuk saying? It says the Braisa Yachel. I would think when it says you're desecrating your daughter, it's talking about a kohen that has a daughter, and I would say it means b'kayin amesi es bitoy lelevi v'Yisrael akasim medaber. Maybe it means a kohen that marries off his daughter to a Levi and a Yisrael. That's what means mechalal. Why is he mechalal her? Because when he does this, he now passes her from eating truma. Maybe that's the chilul that you're not allowed to marry off your daughter to take her away from that ability to eat truma. So that the Braisa says that's not the pshat because Talmud Laimala is noisa. It should not be znus, which means b'chilul shebiznus akasim medaber. A person is desecrating his daughter in a way that there's nus involved, not just taking her away from truma. So what is this talking about? B'maiser as bitay shaloi l'shem ishus. This is one that allows his daughter to go and get married to someone not with a proper marriage, just znus, or allowing his daughter to have a relation with someone without a proper marriage. That's the pasuk of leisachal. So how can we say that this pasuk is the source of the azhara for a father that has a relation with his daughter? So what it says, you can learn two things here, because in kain leim mikra al tochel. Al-Tachal would also mean not to desecrate. My Al-Tachalel with the two lamets, Shma Minot Tarti. I can learn out both things from this pasuk. The Gemara goes back and says, according to Abai V'Rava, you don't need a source for the azhara of a father that has a relation with his daughter. That you learned that already from before, from the Gzeira Shava of Heina, that you learn out from a father. You learn out from the relations to the wife's children. So over here, this extra lamed in this word, what do they learn out from this? Hi, al-tachal, as bitchal, as noisa, mai, avdule, what do they learn out from this? Rab Mani said, what we're learning out from here is, Mesi as bitoy lezaken. This is a person that marries his daughter to an old man. In such a case, his daughter won't be interested in living with this old man, and he's going to cause his daughter, while she's married as an Eishes Ish, to go and be Mizana. The Tanya is going to Nabraisa, Al Tchalas Bit Chalas Noisa, Rabbi Eliezer says, what is it saying? Macy is Bito Lezaken. One that marries off his daughter to an old man, he's going to cause her to go and be Mizana. Rabbi Kiva says it's something else. This is one that leaves his daughter in his home and doesn't marry her off, even when she's already old. And because of this, she's going to end up going and being Mizana, because he's not allowing her to get married. The Gemara brings another source where this is brought in the name of Rabbi Kiva. Omer Rav Kahana Mishum Rabbi Kiva, Ein lecha ani bi Yisrael. You don't have amongst the poor of Yidden el Rasha Arum. You have someone that's a conniving Rasha, and va'amasha bite begeres, and then one that keeps his daughter old as an older girl in the house. Begeres is 12 and a half. Yeah, that's the simple translation of the word begeres. Yeah, but it means an older girl. Okay, so now Gemara explains, how do we understand the statement of Rabbi Kiva? Atu hamashe bitoy begeres, one that leaves his daughter and he holds her back from getting married. Lav Rasha Adamu, he's not a conniving Rasha. Why is it saying here two separate things? And also, the Gemara will explain, what does it mean over here, Ani bi Yisrael? Why are we talking about the poor amongst Yidden? So the Gemara explains, this is what Rav Kahana really said in the name of Rabbi Kiva. Amar Abaye, so Abaye says, Hachi Ka'amar. This is what he meant to say. Ezel Ani Rasha Arum, who is one that's poor, and as a result of his poverty, he's a conniving Rasha. Masha bitoy begeres. This is a person, because he's poor and he needs help in his house, and he can't hire any help. He doesn't have anyone to help him. So what does he do? He holds his daughter back in his house to help him out and to serve him in the house. And that because of his poverty, he doesn't allow his daughter to go and get married. And he convinces her. He tells her, "I need you in the house. I'm taking care of you." And really, he's not doing it for her benefit. He's doing it, he's not allowing her to get married. That's the Rasha Aram in a case of being poor. That's the statement of Rabbi Kiva. And Rav Kahana also similarly said, Mishum Rabbi Kiva, be very cautious of someone that is advising you, and he's only advising you for his own benefit. And he makes it sound like he's advising you for his benefit. Similar to what it says here regarding a person that convinces his daughter to stay in his home and serve him, and really it's for his own benefit, and he's not allowing his daughter to get married. One that marries off a daughter to an old man, or a person that marries a wife to his son, which is a cotton. Also, both of these cases, the girl that's marrying this man, he's not interested in having any can't have any relation with this man. The guy, and also one that returns a lost object to a guy. Regarding these three, there's a comparison here. All of Akasav Vaymed, the pasuk says, "L'man svayis haraves hatzmeya lo yev Hashem slayach le." How do we dash in this pasuk? So Rashi explains, "L'man svayis haraves hatzmeya" means "L'man svayis" to add or to connect, harava, the one that's satisfied, es hatzmeya, to the one that's still thirsty. So regarding the first two cases, it's simple to understand what it's saying. What it's saying is, you're marrying off a girl that is just fresh, young, and here it's an old man. He's not interested in having any relations with her. So he's satisfied, she's thirsty, and there's no shidduch here. And similar, you're marrying off a girl to a cotton, where there's no shidduch between the cotton and this woman, so she's going to end up going and being mizana, as the Gemara said before. And also similar, the Gemara says regarding a person that's returning an aveda to a guy, so Rashi explains that a yid is called tzmeya. Tzmeya means that he's thirsty to do a mitzvah for the Eibishter's sake. This is what it says regarding an aveda. There's no mitzvah of a Shabbos aveda for a guy, only for a yid. So when you return an Aveda to a guy, what you're showing is you're not doing the mitzvah of Shabbos Aveda because you want to fulfill the Ratzon of Hashem. You're giving it back because you want to be a nice guy. You're giving it back to a guy. But it has nothing to do with the mitzvah of Shabbos Aveda. So therefore, what it's saying here is, L'man sfais haraves hatzmeya, that the Yid, which is thirsty to do the will of Hashem, and the guy which is not, he's Rava, he's satisfied with himself. By you returning the Aveda to the guy which is Rava, you're connecting the Yid, which is Tzmeya, to do the will of Hashem, to the guy that's satisfied, and you're returning the Aveda to this guy. That shows you're not doing the mitzvah for the will of Hashem. And on that the pasuk says, La yev Hashem slayachlei. Neisvei, the Gemara asks from a Braisa, this that it said it, you shouldn't marry off your daughter to a cotton, to his son a cotton, asks from what it says in the Braisa, one that loves his wife more than his body. And he honors her more than his own body, which means that he takes care of her, and Rashi says he buys her beautiful jewelry. And then one that is mechanech, he educates his children to go on a straight path. And he marries them off before they come to maturity, age of maturity, meaning when they're still a cotton. All of Akasavayim, this is a positive thing, and regarding this, the pasuk says, "V'yadaita," you should know, "Kishalem ha'alcha," there's peace in your tent. That refers to his shalom bayis, that he's good to his wife. And "Ufakadata navcha," you take care of those that live in your house, meaning you educate your children. And "V'loy sechta," you won't sin. So the Gemara's question is, over here you see a person is marrying off his sons, samach leperkan, even before their bar mitzvah. Okay, so here Taisus brings up Bechlal regarding this concept that a person is able to marry off his son to a wife when they're still ketanim. By a cotton, the kedushin doesn't take effect. So Taisus here, and we had before also memesi to cotton. Taisus says even if the kedushin doesn't take effect, but nevertheless it's not called a beilas nos. If a person were to marry off a wife to his son, a cotton, it's not a kedushin, but it also would not be considered to be a beilas nos. And it seems like in this brayse it's saying that it's a good idea, samach leperkan. Says the Gemara, samach leperkan shani, because it's a son which is right before bar mitzvah, and you're marrying off to a son before bar mitzvah, so samach leperkan, that's the right thing. She'll wait a short time and it'll be bar mitzvah. She won't go and be mezana with anyone else. But before I was talking about a cotton, and he marries off his daughter to a cotton man much younger. Taner Rabbanan Abraisa, we learned one that has good relations with his neighbors. V'amekarev es kroivav, and he's mekarev his relatives, takes care of his relatives. V'anoise es basa chaisei, and one that gets married to his niece, to his daughter's daughter. V'hamalve, to his sister's daughter, that is. V'hamalve sela la'oni b'shas doichkei, one that lends money to a poor person when he's in a tough situation. All of our Kosav Vaymer, it's regarding him that the pasuk says, "Oz tikra." You'll call out to Hashem and the Eibush will answer you. The Gemara does not bring the beginning of that pasuk, but in the beginning of that pasuk, it's not quoted over here on the side either, but Rashi brings in the beginning of that pasuk, it says, Haloi prois l'rov lachmecha, that you should give bread to the poor. That's what it's mentioned here in the Braisa. And also it says in that pasuk, Mipsarcha al tesalem, from your flesh you should not look away. That refers to your neighbors as well. Rashi says a person's neighbors is called a karev, and to the krevim, and also marrying your own niece is included in Mipsarcha al tesalem. And it's on that the pasuk here concludes, Os tikra v'Hashem yana, that the Eibusher will answer you. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to a halacha that was mentioned before, regarding sreifa, and that is if a person has a relation with his mother-in-law, where the punishment is sreifa. So it brings the pasuk over there, and the machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva regarding this pasuk. This was mentioned already also on Daf Ayin Hey. So Tana Rabban we learned in Abraisa. In the pasuk it says, the full pasuk is V'isha sheikach esisha avesima, one that has a relation with a woman and her mother. And then what happens? Ve'esh yisreifu, and it says who? Oisai, the boil, the es hen, and them. It uses a plural term. That's what's going to be discussed here. What do you mean? What's this plural term here? Oisai ve'es, and who does this mean? Oisai ve'es achas mehen. Even though it says es hen, which is plural, it means only one of them. The Gemara is soon going to explain. According to Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shmuel holds that es hen is in Lashon Yevani. In Greek, it's es hein. Hein is one. The reason why Rabbi Shmuel is saying this is because you can't say that both of these women are chayiv misa. One of them is his wife. For that, there's no misa. It's only the mother-in-law. It should be only one. So why does it say es hen? So he says it taka means only one. Rabbi Akiva says no. Oisai v'shteyen. It means oisai and it means shteyen both. Two women are going to be chayiv misa here. So the Gemara explains, how do we understand what Rabbi Akiva is saying? My benayu, what is the difference between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva? Obviously, you can't say that Rabbi Akiva is saying that his wife is chayiv misa. So what is Rabbi Akiva saying? Amar Abaye, so Abaye says, Mashma is darshan mikabenayu. They're arguing in the drasha of the pasuk, meaning lahalacha they'll both agree, but they're arguing how you translate the word esen. Rabbi Shmuel says, Oise ve'esen means Oise ve'es achas mehen. That esen means one of them, which goes on the mother-in-law. And how do you say esen is one of them? Because shekein b'lashon yevani kaidon la'achas hina. In Greek, the word hein, hina, means one. So that means es hein, that one. Now, ve'eim chamaisai, the mother-in-law's mother, if one has a relation with his mother-in-law's mother, Rabbi Shmuel would agree that you chayiv misa for that as well, but midrasha astya. That's only learned out from a drasha. This is a drasha that the Gemara said before on Daf Ayin Hey. Rabbi Akiva Savar, however, Rabbi Akiva says, what's the pshat on the pasuk here? Oisei ve'esen, who are the two women that it's speaking about? When it says esen, it doesn't mean two. It means oisei ve'shteyem. Who is this? It's the mother-in-law, and also ve'em chamaisei, the mother-in-law's mother. Hachaksiva, here it's saying it clearly in the pasuk. So according to Rabbi Akiva, the mother-in-law's mother is in the pasuk clearly. That's the pshat. But they both agree that the halach is the same, but the question is whether it's mefurish in the pasuk regarding the mother-in-law's mother. Rava says the pshat and the argument is different. They are actually arguing regarding a certain halacha. What is that? The question is whether one will be chayiv when he has a relation with a mother-in-law after a wife passes away. Rabbi Shmuel says, that's what it's saying here. Even if she's one, meaning the wife already died, she's the only one that's still alive, one will be chayiv misa for this. Sreifa. Rabbi Kiva says, Yisur ba'alma, there is a iser, but not the einish of sreifa once the wife passed away. Because he doesn't dash an esen that it's only one, that even when the wife is not here. Esa means they're both alive. Only then will there be a chiyav of sreifa. Okay, go on to the next Mishnah. The Mishnah here begins with the list of things that are neherogim, where the misa of sayif, with the sword applies. The following are the ones that are going to be chayiv misa with a sayif. Haritzeach, a murderer. And va'anshe ir anidachas, and all the people of the city of ir anidachas that they all serve the Avodah Zarah. And the Mishnah says details about Haritzeach. Haritzeach shehikas re'eyu, Haritzeach that hit and killed his friend be'evan with a stone or be'barzel with a metal or iron. Or another case, v'kovash olav l'techa mayim l'techa or, or he held his friend down in water that the friend drowned, or in fire, and he killed him this way. Then he wasn't able to come out, the mace, and he died. Chayav will be chayav for this. However, if one pushes another person into the water, or into a fire, but he could have gotten out of the water or the fire, but he didn't, so then potter. The one that did this will be potter. Shisa bayis akelev, if you incited a dog to come and bite someone and kill him, or shisa bayis anachash, you incited a snake to come and bite a person, potter. So then a person is potter, he didn't mamish directly kill him. However, hishich bayis anachash, if he he held the snake in his hands, and he brought the snake mamish to the person, and he made the snake bite him, so then in such a case, Rabbi Yehuda mechayev. Rabbi Yehuda says you will be chayev. Chachamim paitrin. However, Chachamim say you're still going to be potter in this case. The Gemara will explain later this machlekes. Talk to Gemara. Shmuel said, "Bipnei loinema yad bebarzel." Why, when it comes to the case of barzel, when one used a piece of metal to kill a friend, it doesn't say in the Torah the word yad. So Rashi brings in the pasuk when it talks about other things, it talks about an even. It says even yad. When it talks about a kli eitz, a piece of wood, it says kli eitz yad. What does this mean? The Torah is using the term yad to say that it has to be something which is large enough that you can hold in your hand, that it's able to cause death. It has to be something that if not, then he's not going to be chayiv misa. But by barzel, all the Torah says is im bekli barzel iko, not yad. Why is this? Because shah barzel meim is bekolshu. Because with a piece of metal, that's something that it doesn't have to be something large in your hand. Even a tiny little thing can cause death. We learned this in this Bryce as well. Rebbe says, it's known for the Eibusha that created the world. A piece of metal could kill someone even with a little kolshu. A person takes a little pin. The little pin in the throat or in the heart could cause a person to die. Therefore, it doesn't say in the Torah the shear of yad that it goes into your hand. But the Gemara clarifies, the if you use it to poke a person with this, as described, then it'll be mechayev misa. But if you take a little pin and you threw it at a person, you're not going to say that you're going to be chayev misa if somehow he ended up dying from this. Okay, the next case, it said in the Mishnah, v'kovash olav l'toich hamayim. If you hold a person down in water and he drowned, it'll be chayev for this. But then the Mishnah in the Sefer said that if you throw a person into the water and he's able to come out himself and he didn't, then one will be potter. Says the Gemara, Reisha, Rabusa Kamash Malan, and the Reisha it's saying a Chiddush, and the Sefer, Rabusa Kamash Malan, and the Sefer it's also saying a Chiddush. Reisha, Rabusa Kamash Malan, what's the Chiddush of the Reisha? Avagav, the Lavi Dachfai. Even if it wasn't you that pushed him into the water. Now he's in the water, and now after he was already pushed in by someone else, and you're holding down his head under the water. Even then, you held him down and he couldn't come out, Chayev. One will be Chayev for this. On the other hand, Sefer Rabusa Kamash Malan, and the Sefer the Chiddush is, Afagav the Dachfai. You did push him into the water. But given the Yochalalis Misham, since he was able to get out of the water, and he died, Potter. He'll be Potter. So the Gemara says, Kovash Minalam, in the case where the person was already in the water drowning, and you just held him down, so you didn't mamish do the initial act of throwing him into the water. How do I know that this is also an act that you'd be chayiv for killing this person? Amashmol, because there's an extra pasuk, the Almakra, the pasuk says, Oy be'eva. So in that pasuk, it says, Oy be'eva yikol biyada v'yama, so the Oy be'eva is extra. What is it saying? With hatred, you kill this person, that's l'rabbi, it's coming to add when one is holding down this person in the water, that he'll be chayiv for this as well. Okay.